This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. Listen to my show every Monday from 11 to 12 on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH at 1230 KCOH.com, Sangeet Radio at 95.1 FM, 1460 AM, and Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. All right, Houston, you have me, Gilbert Garcia, with another tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. And here we are with another great show, as Ed Sullivan would say, a really big show. And here we are because we have Mr. Christian Menefee, who is our county attorney. Christian, welcome. Do I say Mr. County attorney? What's the right protocol?
Christian. I don't even let people in the office call me county attorney.
Is that right?
Just Christian.
Well, Christian, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know what? That says a lot about you, actually. Let's talk about that. When you were a young Christian growing up, you grew up here in Houston, right?
I did.
Yeah. And you walked the halls of, remind me where you went to high school.
So I went to middle school at Wunderlich Middle School out on the northwest side of town, off Belmont, North Houston. Then did 2 years at Klein Forest. Then my parents moved across town, and I went to A-Leaf Hastings for my last 2 years.
Wonderful. And so when you were a young Christian, did you ever think you were going to run for office or you were going to be a county attorney?
No.
I mean,
no way in hell.
There's no way, right?
No.
I mean, because that's such an extraordinary thing. What were your parents' backgrounds? I mean, were they involved in government service or public service?
They were. So, my mom was in and out of orphanages growing up.
Wow, what a story.
My dad grew up in the country of East Texas, in Lufkin, after he left Fifth Ward, Houston. So, both of them joined the military just because it gave you a warm bed and a warm meal. I had seen their public service through the military, and I'd seen what the military had done for their life, and I knew that at some point in time I would want to give back in service to the country. I didn't know what that would look like, but I certainly would have never guessed that I'd be here today.
Wow, what a great story about your mom when you say about that, going through orphanage, right? She must have been a hell of a, I mean, she's with us?
Yeah, she's still here.
She must be a heck of a lady,
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, she came up with like 9-10 siblings. They were, on the east side of San Antonio in the projects, and then they moved from there to South Central L.A., right as kind of, gangs were up and coming. And then, of course, in the next decade, you had the crack epidemic. But no, my mom and her siblings have seen everything.
God, can you imagine how wonderful it must have been at their house for Thanksgiving? Or something with all the family together and everybody, all the chaos of all the family members.
Oh, I've seen it at family reunions. I've seen it, and let me tell you, that chaos is real.
Yeah.
I've been at the domino table with them at a family reunion, and they turn up, man. They're a good time.
Well, I had 4 kids, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have 4 kids, and they themselves create chaos. And I remember my daughter, who's now my baby, and I always talk about Juju, and everyone in Houston knows I do. I can't help it. And she graduated from St. Agnes this past May, and she's going to U Chicago in the fall. She had older brothers, and so whenever we would go to the grocery store or anything, she would label in the fridge her things.
Yeah.
This is Juju's. This is Juju's. And then, of course, I have one son, Ben Garcia, who always would, go get in there anyway and raid her stuff. So then the sticker said, "This is Juju's." That means none for you, Ben. And so we would go through all that. I can just imagine what a beautiful thing that must have been. And so, and my parents, of course, I'm first generation college and all those things, which sounds like you were or are also, which is great. I mean, it just shows you that society, it works when, we start rising in our lineage of family. What I was going to say is the way out of poverty for my family was the Marine Corps, because my grandfather started as a Marine. My father, that's how it was. The way you mentioned a hot meal and a warm bed. Well, that's what it was, which the military.
Yeah, I mean, it changed their lives, right?
Yep.
So my mom has multiple siblings that joined the military, and if you look at the next generation, you have degrees, you have accomplishments, and the military really got them out of the situation that they were going through. So just forever grateful to the men and women who serve in the armed forces and throughout our country, and like the contributions that they've made and how they inspire you know, the rest of us. My parents were very keen on like, you're going to be the first in this family to go to college.
How wonderful.
You need to figure it out. You need to make it work. I got that tough love, you know, from a military father. He'd wake you up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday and have you sweep. Yeah, the Isley Brothers playing in the background, have you sweeping out the garage. But it invited discipline and organization to my life, and I cherish it.
What a great, is he with us too?
Yes. Yeah.
I bet you they are so proud of you. I mean, they probably just, how wonderful, right? To think about, you know, young Christian, and here you are.
Yeah, my parents are hilarious, man. They're so they moved right out of Harris County right before my first election. They moved to Montgomery County, so they couldn't vote for me. I'm like, oh, Mom, Dad, what are you doing?
You gotta wait, Mom, Dad. I mean, come on.
What if I lose by 2 votes?
Yeah,
right?
This is my time.
Yeah, right. But no, they have been some of my strongest supporters, whether it be just, you know, praying with me, taking care of my 2 boys. They show up to events like the first candidates forum we did for the congressional race. They showed up and stayed the whole time. They're just, you know, huge supporters. The best kind of parents you could ask for.
Amen. You're a very blessed man.
Yeah.
So continue for a second. We have a caller already, though. Who's it? Excuse me? Tanji. Tanji, are you there?
I am here. Thanks for having me.
Well, Tanji, am I saying your name right?
It's Tangi.
Tangi. I'm so sorry, Tangi. Well, this is Gilbert Garcia with Christian Menefee. What do you got for us today? What do you got for him? Or what do you want to say to Houston this morning?
I want to say to Houston this morning, we are off to a great start. We have some wonderful candidates that's running for CD18, but we're really, really excited about what the picks are. So I have a question for Christian. Christian, moving into this new position and hopefully you'll be elected, tell me, what are some of the things that you're going to bring down for the community?
Okay, hold on to that thought, Tangi, and stay with us because I'm going to talk a lot about that in the second half of the show, but let's answer your question. And Christian, for all those listening, as we all know, CD18 was held by the most incredible member of Congress that almost ever in this state, other than, well, up there with the pantheon of Barbara Jordan and Henry B. Gonzalez, people who served for decades. And, of course, that's Sheila. Yeah. And you reach a point in your life and your time where you're just known by one name, one word, like, you know, Madonna or Cher, where there's Sheila.
Right.
And Sheila could get things done. I saw it firsthand as Metro chairman. And, of course, it's going to be big shoes to fill. Yeah. But you are running to have that honor of really filling that shoes, because the mayor, Sylvester Turner, was there, but for a very, very short period of time. And so, of course, you're running. There's quite a few people that have jumped in as we open seed and all the excitement. And, of course, I want to talk a little bit about the concept of we had this budget passed by one vote. Yeah. And here we have a district that needs SNAP, that needs food assistance, that needs Medicaid. And they don't even have representation in the Congress. We'll talk about that. Yeah. But so, Tangi, that's the background I wanted to give. So go ahead, Tangi, ask your question again. I just want to let everybody know that Christian is a candidate. The election is going to be in November.
November 4th.
November 4th, which is right around the corner. So the question, one more time there, Tangi?
Sure, no problem, Gilbert. Christian, my question is, as we're being underrepresented of no representation at all, tell me, how is it that you'll be able to fight for the community so that we'll have the necessary resources, the needed resources, and the tangible resources that we need in order for us to thrive and survive?
Amen. Yeah, thank you very much for the question, Tangi. You know, so I'm of this community. I was raised in the 18th, went to public schools in the 18th, and time again, Tangi, I saw that if government is operating in a thoughtful way, in a smart way, in a compassionate way, that it can give anybody a fair shot at the American dream. You know, I came from a family, we had more people in prison than we had who had been to college. Mm-hmm. And throughout my time in my family, like I saw time and time again how government was able to be there to give us a hand up, not a handout. When it was hard to make ends meet and we needed food on the table, we were beneficiaries of the WIC program. When I went to school and needed a hot meal, I got free lunch. When my brother was battling cancer and he was able to get a bone marrow transplant at MD Anderson right here in Houston because of my parents' military insurance, TRICARE. When my parents went to go buy their first home, well, there was no way on earth we could have afford a home. We had been living in apartments, but they had Veterans Affairs benefits, right, that allowed them to have no down payment, just a $500 good faith fee. I was first in my family to go to college. I went on a Pell Grant, and I went to law school on a post 9/11 GI Bill. Take the government out of that equation, and I am not sitting here before you today. At the same time, we see when I look at my boys, so I have two kids, Gabriel and Malcolm, 3.5 and 1. And when I look at them, I worry about the future for the next generation because we have a president in office right now who is taking aim at those very programs that I told you about. I would not be in college were it not for a Pell Grant, right? I would have never gotten my law degree were it not for the post 9/11 GI Bill. But that type of assistance, we have a president who's working to take it away. So the number one thing I'm going to be focused on, Tangi, is making sure that we protect the institutions that have made our country so great and have given us the opportunity to have a fair shot at the American dream. So when the president is trying to cut free lunch, Pell Grant, SNAP benefits, I will be vigorously in opposition to that. Doing everything I can to coordinate a national legal strategy and to stand up to President Trump and make sure we protect those programs. But it's also
you go.
Yeah, sure. It's also about building on the programs that we've seen have success throughout this country. So workforce development. We've gone through a period in this country where we tried to convince every single kid you got to go to college, right? And the truth is, college is not for every single kid.
That's right.
And on top of that, we shouldn't be requiring kids to go into tens of thousands of dollars in debt just to earn a good living and be able to take care of their family. I want to build out and increase federal investment in workforce development programs, because we know we're going to have a shortage in this country in electricians and plumbers, right? Folks who work in the marine industry. And a lot of those jobs do not require a college degree. And I want to make sure that we expand Pell Grants and other forms of federal funding so that these kids can have those opportunities. Attainable housing. We've seen throughout the 18th congressional district that you have a bunch of really, really cheap housing and you have a bunch of really, really expensive housing, but you don't have housing that's right in that sweet spot for middle class folks who want to have the American dream of the home, the 2 cars, and sending the kid off to be able to be successful after high school. I think there are a number of ways that we can increase federal investment and try to remove barriers so that we can increase the supply of attainable housing in our communities. And of course, I am a huge proponent of public education. I went to public schools all the way until law school. And we've seen in the state of Texas, there is a long-term strategy to try to dismantle our public education system. We've seen HISD be taken over. We've seen libraries be eliminated. And most recently, we've seen the voucher bill that's passed. It's going to steer a lot of kids out of the public school system. There are ways that the federal government can directly invest in our public schools, Title I funding, a number of other ways that's going to ensure that we keep our public schools strong.
Hold that thought.
Sure.
Because, Tangi, I want to come back to something, because the one thing about Christian, and I've gotten to know him a little bit, and, you're such a gentleman. But you know what? You're not afraid of a fight.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you don't mind me saying that, you're not afraid of a fight. And so, Tangi, when you say, what will you do? I mean, I think it's safe to say you're going to carry on the legacy of speaking out aggressively for what's right for the district. And you're not afraid to fight. And you've done that with the state and some of the things the state has done. You've done that with the federal government, some of the things they've done. So I think, Tangi, that's what I see in Christian. But, Tangi, I want to give you the opportunity to have a follow-up to any of that if you have a follow-up question.
I do have a follow-up question, and thank you so much for the opportunity, Gilbert. But Christian, this is my question. When we're getting down to the bare bones of things, how will you work with community nonprofits in CD18 to ensure that the residents are receiving the tangible items and the tangible services that they're needing in order for them to move on for the next day and the day after that, all the way up into the future? How will you work with us in order so that we can work with them to make sure that they have everything that they need so that they can codify their lives the way that it should be?
Yeah, sure.
So hold on. So, Tangi, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and sign off on you, and because we got other callers, but let's answer Tangi's question. So about the nonprofits, what are we going to do there?
2 things. Day one, my plan is to compile a list of all the nonprofits in the 18th congressional district who have had their funding cut because President Trump has, with the stroke of a pen, cut trillions of dollars of federal funding, including funding that flowed to nonprofits, and immediately convene them so that we can get started on a legal strategy to get those funds back. Because one thing I've seen as somebody who has sued Donald Trump is when you drag Trump's attorneys into court, Many times they will do a complete 180 when they get before a judge, and they will restore the funding. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is exactly what I've done over the past 4 years as the Harris County attorney, and that is be a partner and a convener with community. Anybody in the community will tell you, to the extent they've ever reached out to me, called me, text me, I always hit them back. And if you bring an issue to me, I'm not a pass around kind of guy. I don't believe politics is past the hot potato. I believe that politics is about working with the folks who reach out to you and solving their problem, regardless of what your job title is. One of the things I hear so much is, oh my gosh, before you were county attorney, I had no clue what that office did. Like, what are the types of things I should be calling you about? Call me with your problems, right? And we will try to figure out a solution, because I'm the lawyer for all of county government, and county government does a lot of things. I've never subscribed to the that's not what we do here model of public service. I believe public service is about helping people in any way that you can. So Tangi, have your people call now. You don't have to wait until the election. Have them call now with their issues, and I will work through it with them, and we'll try to find a solution.
Wonderful. Tangi, thank you for calling in, lady. And please call in again to the show. So I want to go back, because we went a little bit out of order, but I wanted to answer her questions, so forth. So let's go back to the county attorney position.
Sure.
What is that now? When people, for someone listening that may not really know, when you say you're the lead lawyer for the county government, is that roughly a way to say it?
That's a good description, but it also doesn't mean anything to anybody.
Let's go to that. What does it mean? How many lawyers are you overseeing, and what sorts of issues come up to you?
Yeah, so I ran for county attorney. I started running in 2019, got elected in 2020. I ran against a long-term incumbent just because I took issue with something that he did. And I thought to myself, if you're going to represent my community, the folks that I care about, you have to deal with me in the primary if you do wrong by them. So I ran against him. He had been in public life for about 20 years. I got elected, first-time candidate, youngest person and first African-American to serve in the role. And then I said, oh, snap, I got to be the county attorney.
What do I do? It's kind of like that movie, The Candidate, when Robert Redford woke up and he won. He's like, what do we do now? And his one of his managers was there, and all of a sudden, all the press came in.
Yeah, right.
You never got the answer.
It's go time now.
Yeah,
I was like, can somebody show me where the bathroom is?
Yeah.
So I came into the office, and at the time, it was about 250 attorneys and staff. There have been folks who had been practicing there longer than I had been alive.
Come on.
Right. So step one for me was about building goodwill and getting legitimacy with the folks who work there. But here's what the office does. The way I like to think about it is we have 3 hats. Hat number 1 is a boring hat, but it's integral to the job. And that's we're the legal department, right? You work at a company, you got a legal department. You want to get a contract signed, you got to go through legal, right? You want to make a major decision for the company, you don't know what the legal ramifications are, you got to go to legal. Now, that may not sound like that big of a job, but Harris County government is over 18,000 employees.
Wow.
Right? And the county can't do anything that state law doesn't either explicitly say or suggest that the county can do. So it's
one quick pause.
Yeah.
18,000 employees. How big is the city? Do you know offhand?
I don't. They have
roughly the equivalent, more or less. I'm thinking there's probably 6,000 and HPD, maybe 5,000.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably more. Or it's close to the same.
Close. Okay.
And so the city has like a lot of core services that just like have huge budgets and like and really huge workforce. So at the county, we're over like 18,000 folks, and all these elected officials. So there's 60 elected officials in county government between commissioners court, sheriff, DA, judges, constables, all these folks, right? 60 elected officials. This office, we're their lawyers, all of them, right? The 18,000 employees, if they have issues related to the scope of their employment, we're their lawyers, right? So it's a very, very big job because with a governmental entity, you got to make sure that you can do stuff under the law before you do it. The next hat we wear is the shield. And that is when county officials get sued, by law, we have to represent them in the lawsuit if the lawsuit is related to the work that they do. So anytime a county elected official, right, a county employee, or the county itself, which is what most of the lawsuits are, we have a legal requirement to represent them in those cases. Then the third is my favorite hat. And that is the hat that hasn't been used that much prior to when I got elected. And that's the sword, right? That is, there are various statutes, and they're not all like in one single place, right? They're kind of all throughout Texas law that give us the authority to sue on behalf of the county, right? And that's where we really have kind of revitalize the office and change the thinking of how we affirmatively go after folks. So, for example, we filed a number of lawsuits against large corporations that have deceptively marketed their products to our community. So, for example, we sued Juul e-cigarettes and a couple of other cigarette companies that were marketing vaping products to kids, right? And they would do it deceptively. $27 million settlement we got from that lawsuit.
Wow, how wonderful.
We sued Volkswagen over their emissions practices, where if you tested out the emissions of the car out on the street, it would show one thing, but when you test it in the lab, it would show a much lower emission. We sued them. We sued opioid manufacturers and distributors for their role in the opioid epidemic. We sued a number of state officials, including the governor of Texas, over issues that impact voting rights, environmental justice. This is like the discretionary part of the office, right? Law doesn't say you have to do it, but you do it because there's a collective good that can be had when we bring these lawsuits and try to change
especially if you have results like getting more money for the taxpayers.
That's
or
right.
changing unfair laws or
That's right.
unfair regulations. That's fantastic. And so what do you think your, off the top of your head, success rate has been, or is it still too early?
Okay, so it depends on the types of cases, but for most of those cases, highly successful. The cases where we have the most issues are when we're suing state officials and we end up in the Texas Supreme Court, right? The Texas Supreme Court, they're all elected judges. Many of them were first appointed before they got elected. So there was a vacancy, and then Governor Abbott is who appoints, and then they run for re-election in the Republican Party. That's where we've had the most challenges. But other than that, I mean, we've sued the Trump administration 3 times. We've gotten early victories in all those cases. In each of our cases against state officials, we typically get a win at the trial court, then a win at the intermediate court, and then we go up to the highest court is where we have challenges. But we've seen great success, and even in suing the corporations, we a lot of times are able to change corporate behavior because the lawsuit is such a big deal. So a great success rate. And quick shout out to the folks in the county attorney's office who do the special and affirmative litigation, the environmental team. These folks are rock stars, and they're the reasons we're able to do these types of cases.
How wonderful. I went to my college reunion, which was at Yale, and one of my classmates is Jeb Bursborg. I always have trouble saying his name. Excuse me. Who's a federal judge, of course, in the D.C. Court of Appeals. He's a chief justice.
Oh wow!
And he, of course, is in the news all the time now because he's the one blocking all the Trump administration initiatives. And I visited with him. We had the most delightful discussion. So I understand exactly where you're coming from because you're in the same place. But let me say this. When you say you're doing all these activist things, you're representing all the people of the county government, you're doing the odds and ends of county work, and there's 18,000 people, you said, in the county. How many lawyers do you have?
So we have just under 200 lawyers.
It sounds like not enough to me. And I'm not I'm not that smart or anything, but it just seems like that's a lot of work.
It is a whole lot of work. County attorney's office, I would say, is one of the busiest offices in county government. But these people are smart. They're smart. They're brilliant. They're hard workers. Many of these folks could be out making a ton of money in the private sector, but they do it because they deeply believe in the mission. They believe in ensuring that our communities are protected and that there's good public service out there. We got rock stars in the office, and we've been hiring a lot too. So
how wonderful! Well, we had another caller. I think we may have had 2, but let me get the first one. Is there Alexandra there? Alexandra, are you there? Alexandra. We may have lost her, but I'm sure she'll call back. Alexandra, if you're there, call back. Do we have another caller?
Yeah, and your name again?
I think we do. We're going to patch it through right now. So hang on there, Christian. Sure. Alexandra, we hope you call back. We are talking to Christian Menefee, of course, who is our county attorney. And you have been in there. You were reelected once, right?
Yep.
Okay. So here we are. And then now congressional candidate for CD 18. Who's that next caller? Just pass them through. We didn't have it? We lost it? Okay. Okay, go ahead. We have another caller there? You're on the air. What do you got for me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
That's okay. You got me. You're on the air. You're talking to everyone from Houston to all the surrounding Harris County. You got us. We have Mr. Christian Menefee, our county attorney. What do you got for him?
Hello. Yeah. So I have a question regarding when you talked about why is it difficult? Why are you facing challenges against state officials when dealing with the higher courts? Because you mentioned about it, how it's difficult to win those kind of cases, but do you mind go in detail about that?
Yeah, so a lot of times these are cases that are against high-profile Republicans, right? Cases against the governor of Texas, against the attorney general of Texas, cases over laws that were passed by the supermajority Republican Texas legislator. And then ultimately those cases end up in the Texas Supreme Court. And all these folks are elected officials the same way as anybody else. They run in a partisan primary. And in fact, one of the justices on the Texas Supreme Court perpetuated, nonsensical conspiracy theory stuff and said to a Republican club that he believed that Democrats in Harris County were trying to steal elections, right?
Are they still talking about that?
I mean, I don't know if they are, but this guy certainly was. But he's a jurist who oversees our cases and doesn't recuse himself from Harris County cases. So the point that I was making there is that when we are before jurists who I think are just kind of, ignoring all of the nonsense, we have a really, really good record. And then every now and again, we end up before jurists like that one, who very clearly have expressed in the public a bias against Harris County officials. And, we're not afraid of a fight, even if we feel like the odds are stacked against us. So we take our punches and we keep going. But the work is incredibly important. Protecting voting rights is incredibly important. Stopping concrete batch plants from proliferating in Black and brown neighborhoods is incredibly important. So we keep at the work, and maybe one day we'll flip the set.
Is there any evidence, and I don't mean here and there, because there's here and there probably since the dawn of elections, but any real systematic problem with voting here in Harris County? Has there been any evidence of any real conspiracy about all this sort of thing that we hear about?
Not at all. In fact, after the 2022 election, one of the officials who ran voting at the Secretary of State's office for the entire state of Texas said that, things were perfectly fine, right? He was very soon thereafter demoted and moved to a different section of the Secretary of State's office because he was saying the truth, which is a thing that folks in Republican leadership in the state of Texas don't want said about elections. So the answer is no, there have not been any widespread issues. In fact, 22 losing Republican candidates filed lawsuits claiming that there were all these issues in Harris County, and they got into court and got their teeth kicked in. I mean,
none of them won. It was
just one. But all the issues that candidate pointed to were not even related to kind of the core of their conspiracy. And that race, I think the margin in that race was like 300 votes, something incredibly small, right? But there were races where the individual lost by tens of thousands of votes, and they were alleging some, grand mess up / conspiracy that resulted in them losing their race. And it's like, no, maybe people just didn't like you.
Yeah, maybe you just didn't have maybe you weren't resonating with the public.
That's right.
It's that simple.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
Well, hold that thought. We have another caller already. Is there Alexandra there? Alexandra, are you there? Alexandra.
Yes, hi.
Can you hear me? You have me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip for me. Talk, inspiration, and prayer with Mr. Christian Menefee, our county attorney and candidate for CD 18 congressional district. But before we ask a question, this is an open election, right? This is not a primary. Am I right, Christian?
It's called a jungle primary, which means that Democrats and Republicans are in the same pool of candidates. Voters can vote for anybody, and the top two candidates advance to the runoff, regardless of political party, if no one candidate gets 50% of the vote on November 4th.
Got it. Alexandra, what do you got for Mr. Menefee?
My question was, what local issues do both of you think deserve way more attention right now in Houston?
Christian, what do you think? Well, I'm going to just change it a little bit and say Harris County.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, local government budgets, right? Over the past several years, we saw that a lot of the budget dollars for Harris County, for the city of Houston, came from the federal government because tax bases were so changed, as were hotel taxes and motor vehicle taxes because of the pandemic. So there were large infusions of federal dollars into local government, and that money's just drying up, right? So that means that local governments are going to have to figure out where that money is going to come from. I know at the county, the request from Commissioner's Court has been that departments across the board look for cuts so that they can make up the budget deficit, which is substantial. But it's a real problem that you're going to see that's impacting folks across the county. The second is how we handle climate change. Like, we have had here in Harris County and in the Gulf Coast 500-year storm after storm, right? Mm-hmm. People are losing their
a 500-year storm every 5 years.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
right.
Really, come on.
Right, every 500 days now. And how we mitigate that flooding and the impact of the damage that comes with the flooding, with the storms, with the wind, it's gonna be a major issue. It's gonna impact people on the ground. Most of us, if you're doing, particularly well in life, when those storms hit, it's something that impacts you maybe for a few weeks, for a few months. there are people who have still not gotten their life back together after Hurricane Harvey because of how it devastated their finances and their ability to kind of live without the fear of something like that happening. I have a good friend who lost his girlfriend. She passed away in one of our storms that we had out here. So it's impacting people very deeply. And we know that climate change is a large part of it. So how we navigate trying to mitigate the impacts of climate change, slow climate change, and then, disaster recovery, how we respond to it afterward. These are things that are real life to people here on the ground that should be a big deal. The last two I'll say is illegal dumping all throughout the 18th congressional district, including the parts that used to be in the 18th but are now in the 9th. You see illegal dumping is prevalent, right? People will drive to a neighborhood, drop off a couch, right? Any number of like large fixtures, just drop them off and leave them there. And the communities have to deal with that. That it's not just a blight issue, but it's an environmental justice issue, because when that stuff degrades, right, it can impact the people who live nearby. So that is an incredibly big issue that folks should be focused on, should be on the lookout for, and we have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our communities from illegal dumping.
Well, Alexander, for another show, I'll talk about mine, but I'm going to just mention very quickly, to me, the will of the voters is so sacred. Yeah. And if you look here in Houston, we're just not paying attention to the will of the voters. It started, of course, we had a referendum when I was Metro chairman, and then the next Metro chairperson, Carm Patman, to get more money to Metro to connect and do more the systems that we have on transit and so forth. And all of a sudden, they just decided in the middle of the night, we're not going to be expanding mass transit. Even the voters voted for it and appropriated more money to Metro. You could look, it continued with the voters voted to raise money to address the flooding issues. That wasn't being spent. It took a lawsuit, which was won by the citizens, essentially, the two plaintiffs. And then, of course, came the most recent ones, which is city council members being able to put things on the agenda. That's now being sort of ignored or circumvented. And then the other one was the voters voted to have better representation or fair representation on the regional authority that allocates money for, which is HGAC, for various construction, road projects, etc. All these things, the voters spoke, and I don't mean by a little bit, overwhelming. Yeah. And somehow we're not coming through. So the will of the voters, in my opinion, is not being implemented. Hold that thought, because I know you got a lot to say, but we have Mr. Dwight Boykins, who we all know Dwight Boykins on the line. Dwight, are you there? Former councilman Dwight Boykins, are you there? Dwight Boykins.
Hey, my brother Gilbert.
How are you,
doing,
my friend? It's great to hear your voice. Everyone knows Mr. Dwight Boykins, who, of course, was a member of City Council and a very close dear friend of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Yeah. I mean, talk to me, Dwight Boykins. What do you got for me or Mr. Christian Menefee?
Well, first, man, let me just tell you, Gilbert, it's always good to know you still doing your thing in the community, man. And thank you and appreciate you for having me on your show a few months ago. I'm jealous Kristen beat me back to it because I want to get back on that show, man.
You got an invitation, but keep going.
But so I appreciate what you're doing, man. Let me just tell you, I was going through Facebook and I saw your show going on with Kristen. And I just want the listeners to know this young brother is the real deal, man. And he is really, really committed to the 18th. You know, I grew up as a child and been in 18th all my life, Gilbert. And you know, being from Houston, man, I mean, we have a lot of people that come in, transplants, that want to come in and tell us how to run our city. Mm-hmm. And because you've seen how to develop from gentrification to federal money, local issues, whatever the case may be, and then to have somebody come in and want to tell us how to run our city. When you listen to this young brother, Christian Menefee, talk, man, you know he's homegrown. He knows how to connect the dots. And being that, Janor and I've been here, we've invested a lot of money in the Third Ward area. We want someone we feel that will represent our interests. But more importantly, poor people the least and the last, and people who care about our city. And that's what Christian Menefee has done as a county attorney. And, and I look forward to see this brother and do all I can to help him get into the 18th seat to become our next member of Congress. And last comment, I think, not last, but Congresswoman Lee, and I'm sure Sylvester Turner the same, would be proud of this young brother, man, because he's the real deal and we need him there.
Well, let me ask you this, Dwight. How important is it to be homegrown in your mind?
You know what? I don't think you have to be, but I think it's important that you come in and want to be a public servant and not a damn politician. That's what's important to me. Serve people. We are people. When you go into the grocery store or liquor store, wherever you go in the community, and people recognize you from your work of helping people, that's important. And being from Houston is important, trust me, because there are stories and you can resonate and connect dots, but you don't have to be from Houston to care about people, in particular seniors, man, and people who need second chances and creating opportunities for those who left behind. I went to Austin High School, which was not an African American community, but I was embraced over there to that culture, and being from Houston, we all connected. So I think it helps being from Houston, especially when you're going to public service, but just be a public servant and not a politician, man. You got me.
Well, let me ask you this, and I know Christian is waiting to say a couple things here, but Dwight, are you working with the county still? You were for a while, right?
Yeah, no. I've been going about 3 years.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Kim Ogg with my second chance program through the district.
But you were there for a little while.
For 2 years. I learned a lot.
So let me ask you this. When you see Christian, do you, and you are in tune because you work there at the county, and of course you're a long time civic activist and member of council, etc. What do you think Christian has meant to the community, being young, being aggressive, using the position now for proactive? I mean, what do you think that has meant to the community?
Well, you look at Christian's background, and Christian just didn't jump out there and say, I want to be a public servant. He went through Houston Black Democrats, and he's worked his way through the political service, and he could probably tell you more about his background. But he learned and he studied. And we need an opportunity to show you from what I understand, to show you the sign of a good, sharp young man. Christian defeated another Democratic supporter and friend, Vince Ryan, who's a good friend. And I think Vince is only just giving kudos and respect to Christian based on what he's done as a public servant. It wasn't a dirty fight in the Democratic primary. Christian was just a young man with a vision and ready to lead our county, and he's done a hell of a job. And what I love about him, man, that brother got in there and had some issues on the state level and the federal level. He sued and won. He wasn't down there for political reasons. And you have in the Congressional District 18, man, you have cancer clusters, you have seniors in need, you got this administration in Washington now cutting Medicaid, Medicare, and whether we win the fight with the minority in the House, I know damn well Christian Menefee gonna be on the floor fighting, articulating the issue that's important to my people. And that's why I support this brother and gonna do all I can to help it.
Dwight Boykins, thank you for calling in. Did you want to say something to Dwight? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Dwight, I appreciate it, man. Let me tell you, I remember vividly before I ever ran for elected office, I went to a capital improvement program meeting that then Councilman Dwight Boykins had over at Emancipation Park. And I just remember the room being packed out. And everybody in the room raving about how good of a council member he was. And interestingly enough, to the line that he's been saying a few times, they talked about how he was a public servant and not a politician. So I appreciate the kind words. And I think what Dwight is getting at has been a huge focus of mine is, having military parents and coming from where I come from. I just put my head down for the past 4 years and went to work and did work. Right. That has largely been my focus as county attorney, is to put real wins on the board for people. All the hoopla and all the rest of that that comes with it. I mean, fine. But I never ran for office to go to galas and luncheons. I didn't run for office, to have like notoriety or fame. I ran for office because I wanted to help people.
Amen.
And I wanted to get stuff done to help them and, not have cosmetic fights in a cosmetic way, but really kind of move the needle for folks. And so it means a lot coming from you, former councilman. That really means a lot. Thank you.
Dwight Boykins, thank you for calling in. And my office is going to call you so we can get you on the calendar because I know you got a lot to say.
All right. Thanks, Gilbert.
Thank you, my friend. Councilmember Dwight Boykins, what a great guy. All right. We have another caller already, Christian. So let's go right to it. Mr. Rodriguez.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
Mr. Rodriguez, this is Gilbert Garcia with Mr. Christian Menefee, County Attorney. What do you got for us?
So, Christian, it was really inspiring and really valuable to hear your personal experience with the Pell Grant. And it's very clear that these federal programs and institutions have value. I was asking you, what advice do you have for someone who wants to sparse out the current administration's agenda and rhetoric from fact about these programs and the value that they have?
Well, so the question was, what advice do you have for folks who are trying to kind of parse out what is just rhetoric, what is the Trump administration actually getting done, and how it can be stopped? My advice would be, Mr. Rodriguez, that person would probably need to get into journalism because that is a double, triple, full-time job right there. Even the media has had trouble really tracking the impact of the Trump administration and their rollbacks to executive orders. And part of that is by design. I think the Trump administration intentionally rolled out, I think at this point it's been over 150 executive orders that take away people's basic freedoms, that cut trillions of dollars in federal funding, that lay off or force out of the workforce more than 100,000 federal workers.
That's got to be a record, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be a record,
Easily.
right? He's just like boom, boom, boom.
Easily.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's if you go back and watch Vice, which is a movie about Dick Cheney and his vice presidency. And it talks about how incredibly powerful Dick Cheney was as vice president. But one of the things it talks about, not too long in the movie, but it does mention it, is this theory of the unitary power of the executive, right? There is a group of kind of fringe right-wing folks out there who believe that the president of the United States is really kind of the all-powerful in government. It's supposed to represent the entirety of the executive, right? And in many instances, that power should displace the other two branches of government. So, the simple way of saying that is there are people who believe that a president should be more akin to a king than somebody who's democratically elected. And I think what you've seen from the Trump administration is exactly that, right? Rolling back birthright citizenship, a concept that has been enshrined in the United States Constitution, where case after case after case is made clear that if you were born in the United States of America, that you are a citizen of this country, just rolling it back. And the impacts that could have on the issuing of official government documents, on healthcare, on getting, being able to go to public schools and the like, just is huge. And with the stroke of a pen, he took all of that away. So my advice to you would be, there are many like law firms out there who have trackers of all the executive orders to be able to see kind of what's happened and what hasn't. But the other kind of big variable here is that the Trump administration is getting sued. It's not just me suing the Trump administration. It's nonprofits across the country. It's attorneys general across the country. It's local governments across the country. And so many of the executive orders right now have no import because they were sued. And they had to, once they got before court, they did a complete 180. So, Mr. Rodriguez, the best I can tell you is follow me on social media. I'll try to keep you updated as best I can. It's at CD Menefee on most platforms, but it is a full-time job to keep up with the idiocy that is the Trump administration.
And it's like nonstop.
Yeah.
I've been in the business. Well, let me take a step back. My awareness was during the Carter administration. I'm older than you are, obviously. And that's when I first became aware. I was in middle school and then entering high school. And of course, I've been involved, sort of since.
Sure.
And of course, I've been managing money since 1985. I've been working in the markets, et cetera. I can't remember a time when there's been a president and I come to work and I come in thinking, what did he do yesterday?
Yeah.
Because it's moving the market. It's down 5%, it's up 5%, it's down 20%. It's unbelievable, unprecedented, and frankly, it's not healthy. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
What did he do today? And this concept of flipping back and forth or changing your mind, and they're calling it taco now. I mean, all these sorts of things. It's not good. That's not the way to lead.
And it's the erosion of norms. I was thinking back the other day to a very old Facebook post that I had. It was right after a debate between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. And I remember going online and seeing on Facebook that a bunch of people were calling them stupid or dumb, and you had conservative folks saying Barack Obama was dumb. You had liberal folks saying that Mitt Romney was dumb. And I'm just like, guys, like, have you read anything from these gentlemen? I mean, these are some pretty bright folks. Who are committed to the institutions, to the rule of law, to norms. And yeah, we have our differences, but, honorable guys. Donald Trump is just on a different wavelength. President Trump has come in and just kicked all the norms out of the window. And there are many decisions that the administration makes that were impulsive and there was no method to the madness. So I think part of what we're seeing is both an administration that on the one hand has been very calculated in rolling out so many executive orders to kind of thwart everybody's attention from the real issues that are going on, while on the other hand, many times the left hand has no clue what the right hand is doing.
That's right.
And it's so incredibly frustrating to be, somebody in government at this time because of all of what we're seeing out of DC.
Going back to this concept of Obama and Mitt Romney, et cetera, I remember Clinton Bush.
Yeah.
They had enormous respect for each other. And what's fascinating is the Bush family and the Clintons are very good friends.
Yeah.
And the Clinton Library and the foundation works very closely with the Bush Library, et cetera. And I had the pleasure to see that firsthand because we're big supporters, my firm, of the Clinton Foundation, et cetera. And I was invited to go to a thing with both of them were there with, I think it was Prime Minister, I don't recall the third. It's from, I think it was Major from Britain. I don't remember for sure. But the two of them. And it was a group of like 50 of us and so forth. And they were talking. And they were just like joking with each other. You could tell there was just natural affinity. And it was a joint thing between the two different foundations. And I remember vividly that they asked Bill Clinton a question. And I don't remember the question, but something, and his answer was a very long, wonky answer.
Sure.
And then they asked the same question to George Bush, the number 2 president. And he goes, you know what? He goes, Bill spoke so long, I forgot the question. And, they both erupted in laughter. And it was just a genuine affinity.
Yeah.
And you could just tell the warmness between the two. And that's what's missing, sort of, this concept of we all want the same thing, which is a strong country, a great county, a great city. We all want a better life for our kids. We all want the same thing. It's just a difference in philosophy of how to get there. And it really comes down to a difference in philosophy of the role of government.
Sure.
With one thinks that, the government is not the solution. Another one thinks that, and we think that government should play an active role in our lives.
Sure.
And that's really what it breaks down to. But it's turned into this meanness. How do you stay above all that? Because somehow you seem to have sort of avoided that, or maybe I just don't know. But I congratulate you because people, I think, view you as very thoughtful, very knowledgeable, and maybe you are able to be above all that.
I believe in being forceful with a lot of what we're saying. Look, when Bush and Clinton were having their discourse, things were much different than they are today. But, how do you deal with a leader in the Republican Party who says that I want to take, books out of school that talk about Black history, but I want to put the 10 Commandments in front of the school, right? How do you deal with a president who is looking at parents of kids who, if born in any other decade, would have been citizens of the United States and says, I unilaterally decree that they are no longer citizens of the United States? How do you play nice with the president who will deport someone to a foreign country who is actually a United States citizen and should not be deported, and then won't admit the mistake and try to bring the person back?
That's frightening. Everything you just said is terrifying.
Terrifying. The norms are different now. Look, I believe in throwing punches when it's appropriate. I believe in fighting in an aggressive way, but not just for the sake of fighting. And, there are Republicans who I get along with. I believe in being thoughtful in my approach, though, right? It's not just close your eyes and put a blindfold on and throw a bunch of punches. It is being thoughtful, being methodical, and advocating, sometimes fiercely, in a way that's going to get the result that you're looking for. But could I have a beer with a Republican leader? Yeah, I'm the lawyer for all of county government. That includes all the Republican elected officials. Mm-hmm. And I have, relatively fine relationships with the vast majority of them. And it's because they know that if they call me to get something done that they're trying to get done, we're going to help them get it done because that's the job, right? And I'm not going to supplant their goals from my politics because that's not the job.
Right.
If I get elected to Congress, it'll be a different job, but that's the job that I have today. And I think, if we had more folks in politics who are less concerned about going viral on social media and more concerned with getting real stuff done for people, our politics would be in a different place.
Well, I'll give a shout out to Commissioner Tom Ramsey because I knew him when he was one of the mayors of the small cities, and he was always very supportive of me, and he had no reason to be. When I was Metro Chairman, of course, I'm a very partisan Democrat, and he's just an outstanding person, and he's someone that you can work with, and I'm sure you've had success communicating with him.
Yeah, it's funny. I think when I came into elected office, I expected it to be rah-rah kind of every hour of every day. My first year in elected office, my wife gave birth to our oldest, and the only elected official who got a gift from my son was a Republican. And I was like, I'm going to take this to the house to my son. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Yeah, so, sometimes you have to kind of take the partisan blinders off and just be a human being.
Amen. Amen. We got a caller already. Is there a Jack on the phone? Jack, are you there?
Yes. Hi. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you. You got me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip for me, with Christian Menefee, who is our county attorney. What do you got for him or for me or for Houston and Harris County?
So my question's for Christian. I think y'all were touching base on it already, but it was, how do you plan to build bipartisan support in Congress, to advance legislation?
Yeah, the same way that I've done kind of throughout my entire career, and that's just being able to work with people regardless of their political viewpoints. Before I ran for office, I worked at a law firm. I was out in New York trying a case for about a month in January, so freezing cold. And there was a guy on the trial team who was much senior to me, a partner, who's a fantastic trial lawyer. And every day after trial, we would go to dinner and argue about politics. And this was like kind of the most old school culture war battles. He's like, we need to bring prayer back in schools. I'm like, okay, which prayers, the whole nine. When I decided to run for county attorney, he was among one of my first donors.
Oh, how great.
And what he said to me was, even if I don't agree with you on any of the issues, we need smart people in government. We need smart, dedicated people in government who have high levels of integrity. And I know that all those things are true about you. These are the folks that I worked with on a daily basis on the private sector. So since I've become county attorney, I've been able to partner, with elected officials who are on the Republican side on a number of things. We went after a large company that was out in Harris County Precinct 3, so that's Commissioner Tom Ramsey's precinct, because they were trying to expand a landfill more deeply into the community. And with Commissioner Ramsey's support, we filed a lawsuit against them, came up with a creative legal theory, and after about a year, they backed off of the plans, which was a huge win for the community out there. They were so thrilled about it. But I think folks were kind of surprised because, they expected me, kind of the young firebrand, to say, oh, well, if it's in this precinct and with this politician, I'm not going to advocate for it. But that's just not how I roll. At the end of the day, people's problems they're not Republican problems. They're not Democratic problems. They're economic problems. They're healthcare problems. When somebody's kid has cancer and they're trying to help their kid survive and they need money to be able to pay for the expenses that come with the treatment, they don't care if it's a Republican who gets it for them or a Democrat who gets it for them. That's the same way I'm going to carry myself in Congress. And look, to be sure, I disagree with President Trump on many things. I disagree with the Republican Party and their leadership on many things. But at my core, I'm someone who believes in getting stuff done. And there are some times where a punch is the way to get something done. There are other times where collaborating is the way to get stuff done. And so, I'm going to be thoughtful in my approach if I get elected to Congress and ensure that I'm doing something that's going to benefit the people of the district, bring resources back to the district. And I'm sure that will include at times voting for legislation that has bipartisan support. And I'll finish with, I would even work with the Trump administration. I mean, look, I know that they don't see the world the way that I do, and I'm confident that they will never want to work with me. But if there were an issue where the Trump administration was seeing the world the right way and it was going to benefit the people of the 18th Congressional District, of course, I'd be willing to work with them. Now, I think I know Donald Trump well enough to know that that's not going to happen, but I think that's the way that public servants should be looking at public service.
Amen. Good going. Is there a Miss Smith there? Miss Smith, are you there? And Jack, thank you for that question. Call in again. Miss Smith, I'm trying to get in all the callers. Miss Smith, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip from me with Mr. Christian Menefee. What do you got for us this morning?
I have a huge invite for the both of you. I wanted to invite you all to Passing the Torch that's going to be on June the 19th. We're having a huge celebration in Homer Park, the golf course area, and I wanted to invite you and Christian out to this event. It's going to be a huge event that's talking about the legacy of the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. So please put us on your schedule and come out and be with us.
Well, give us some detail. What time is that, and what do you envision? Is this people going to give some speeches? Is it a barbecue? I mean, what is it going to be all about, and what time, et cetera?
Oh, the time is going to be from 1 to 4, I believe, and this is going to be a huge celebration. We're going to be talking about life and legacy. We're going to have some nice things going on, some nice conversations going on, some nice tips that's talking about the legacy and what's to come, and the whole 9 yards. And yes, this is going to be like a family barbecue.
Well, I tell you what, I'll do you one better. I'm looking at my calendar right now, and it is already in my calendar.
Woo!
Look at that.
I like the
Yeah,
sound.
I must have known that you were going to call because I got it right here at Herman Park Golf Course. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Miss Smith, let me ask you this: did you know the great Sheila Jackson Lee?
Yes, I did.
And what does she mean to you?
She means a lot to me. Everything that she has done in the community, the legacy that she had left. I'm talking about going down to knocking on doors, ensuring people had lights when storms were going on, making sure people had shelter, making sure people just had the basic essentials in their lives. So that's what I remember about her. I'm talking about a down-to-earth woman that you can have a conversation with, whether she's in a nail shop or she's at a podium. So you can have that conversation with her.
I love that. You know, I remember her, and I've known her for quite some time because I worked closely with her during my service at Metro. And I can tell you, and I was, you know, quote unquote, in the room when it happened, we would not have gotten the $1 billion from the federal government without Sheila Jackson Lee. There is just no way.
Exactly.
Because she was a warrior. And I remember being in a meeting with the administrator of the FTA and Peter Rogoff, and he came down to tell, it was several members of Congress, a private room, me and Mayor Anise Parker, and Gene Green was there. I mean, a bunch of us were there, and he told us that we are not going to get the grant because of the previous board's actions. And I remember Sheila, we came out of that room and she's like, we're not going to stand for that. We're not accepting that. And oh my God, was she just fierce. And so I remember vividly. And I also remember when I was getting my COVID shot, I went to Booker T there in the gymnasium. And there she was running her and making sure everybody was getting their vaccine there at the high school. And I thought, man, that's incredible. What a member of Congress. Well, Ms. Smith, thank you for calling in. So one more time, Herman Park, June 19th, from 1 to 4. And I guess just come, bring your family, and let's, have some barbecue and let's all reminisce and tell Sheila stories.
Let's tell Sheila stories and let's reminisce about the legacy that she left, and let's pass the torch like it was designed to do. So whoever is going to get that position, they have some big shoes to fill.
Amen for that, don't they? Well, Ms. Smith, thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. All right. We're coming down to, that part of the show. Remember Carol Burnett? I'm going to really date myself. Remember Carol Burnett show? You may not know that show. Well, she was a very famous comedian, and she had a variety hour on the show back in the days when you had variety hours, which had like multiple stages and multiple costumes and a full orchestra, all those sorts of things in the glory days of TV. And of course, she's like in her 90s now, and she's still alive. And she had her show, and at the end, she always had this song that says, I'm so glad we had this time together to have a laugh and sing a song. And before you know it, comes our time to say so long. Can you believe it's been an hour?
I cannot. No,
it's been an hour.
I was just thinking to myself, we just got started.
Yeah, I know. We didn't even. I had all these things I was going to talk about. I didn't get to talk about any of them.
Oh, I had a good
because guess what? It's time. I want to give you your last couple of minutes, but we've already been an hour. You've been a gentleman. It's great to hear you. I'm so glad you're running. I'm so glad that you're working so hard. I appreciate all the callers in that called in and wanted to have a piece of you and talk to you and touch you here via phone. So I'm going to give you the last 2 or 3 minutes here to say whatever you want to say, and please include your website, what's going on with the campaign, if you have any fundraiser events or where to go, where to volunteer, who's your campaign manager if you have one. Just give it all, and that's your camera right there.
Got it. Well, first of all, Gilbert, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today to talk. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of the folks in Houston, across Harris County, who tuned in today. I am from the district. I went to public schools in the district. My brother beat cancer in the district. My parents were able to buy a home thanks to government assistance in the district. And every single major accomplishment of my life has been drawn right back to this district. I'm here running for the 18th Congressional District because I know what service looks like, and I want to bring that service to the district. When I was elected as the Harris County Attorney, youngest person, first African American at the age of 32, I took an office at the county that most folks hadn't heard of, and we together turned it into a place that represents the county, that respects all the people who work there, that fights for our community, and will stand up to any powerful person, regardless of whether they're in the governor's mansion, a corporate boardroom, or in the White House. And I think that's what people expect out of their member of Congress in the 18th Congressional District. A fighter, someone who's going to stand up to power and will never be afraid to protect people's rights. The late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee was so important to me personally, a friend, a mentor, a colleague, and I'm so grateful for her service and for the opportunity to step into those shoes. And I think that the work that we've done at the county really makes clear how that legacy of service will continue. And that's why her daughter, Congresswoman Erica Lee, is supporting our campaign.
Go website.
Yeah.
I mean,
the website is www.christianmenefee.com. Has our platform, has information about me, as where you can sign up to volunteer and donate. But the important thing that it has that you won't see in many other political campaigns in 2025 or moving forward is it has a results page, which lays out the work that we have done for you as Harris County Attorney. Right, shows that we have put real wins on the board, and that's exactly the type of member of Congress that I'll be. So Christian Menefee, running for Congress in the 18th Congressional District. Go to christianmenefee.com. Would love to have your support on this campaign.
All right, Houston, Harris County, you heard it here first. Got a tip from Gilbert, talking inspiration and prayer. Be with us next week and every week. You'll hear all the ads. We got a lot of great speakers, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget, register to vote. This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia with a tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. Listen to my show every Monday from 11 to 12 on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH at 1230 KCOH.com, Sankeet Radio at 95.1 FM, 1460 AM, and Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then.